Break it down. Start 9 till 7.
Burger King has been a part of the Cayman family for decades, and we know our family needs a little extra help right now. So we're introducing the best Whopper deal on the planet. 4 Whoppers for just $10.
We are family. I got 4 Whoppers with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, let's eat.
The Burger King Family Bundle. 4 Whoppers for just $10. Available at all Burger King drive-thrus for a limited time.
Dear students, we know that you miss your friends, being outside, and most of all, coming to school.
And we hope that you understand that everything happening right now is to keep you safe from harm.
You are our priority. You are the future. Even though this is a very tough time, we believe in you to be the leader we know you can be.
To stay focused and doing your best work, even when no one is watching.
To be helpful and respectful to your parents and guardians at all times.
To be kind and thoughtful to everyone around you.
To always be thankful, even for the little things.
And most of all, to remember to keep in touch with us, because
we're here for you. Love your teachers.
A message from the East End: Edna Moyle, John Gray, Layman E. Scott, Red Bay, T.O.Line McCoy, West End, and the Lighthouse Schools.
Roll back.
Every Wednesday and Thursday, all Rubis stations are rolling back the price on all fuel purchases by 20 cents. Every customer will save 20 cents on every gallon of fuel purchased on Wednesday and Thursday. Every customer. Only at Rubis.
Roll back. Roll back.
Live from Star 927 Studios in the center of Cayman's capital city, Georgetown. This is Straight Talk with Ruth Anna.
Good evening, everybody. You are tuning to Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Star 92.7. I am your host, Ruth Anna Young, always honored to be your host here on Straight Talk every Monday through Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here and nowhere else at Star 92.7. It is 5:02 p.m. on Star 92.7 clock, and it is the 2nd of June, the 6th month of the year. Happy birthday to all of you who are celebrating birthdays today, anniversaries, work anniversaries, anything of that sort. Happy anniversary and happy birthday to you guys. 943-3700 is the line in studio. And of course, if talking ain't your thing, you can also WhatsApp me at 324-1565, or you can email me at straighttalkci@gmail.com. But you guys know the deal. I know we are going to have a very active and robust conversation here today. I do have the privilege and the pleasure of having a whole team from the new Worc department, WORC. I will introduce them all in short course. I have 5 guests in the virtual studio today, all of whom who are coming to Straight Talk for the very first time, which means you have 5 Who Ya Mama Is segments today, which I know y'all are always very excited about. So they're with me up until 6 o'clock this evening, but we will, as we always do, get started with the reading of today's Daily Bread. So today's Daily Bread is entitled Chosen to Forgive. And the scripture comes from Luke 23, verse 34, and reads, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. As a middle schooler, Patrick Ireland first sensed God had chosen him for something. But what? Later, as a survivor of the horrific Columbine High School massacre, where 13 were killed and 24 wounded, including Patrick, he began to understand and answer. Through his long recovery, Patrick learned that clinging to bitterness causes further wounding. God showed Patrick that the key to forgiveness is to stop focusing on what others have done to us and to focus on what Jesus has done for us. Christ's words on the cross towards his tormentors, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing, fulfilled Zechariah the priest's prophecy of Jesus' forgiveness. Additionally, his example revealed a purpose for Patrick, and 20 years after the tragedy, Patrick shared, maybe I was chosen to forgive. While most of us will not endure an unimaginable calamity such as the one committed at Columbine, each of us has been wronged in some way. A spouse betrays, a child rebels, an employer abuses. How do we move forward? Maybe we look to the example of our Savior. In the face of rejection and cruelty, he forgave. It is through Jesus' forgiveness of our sins that we ourselves find salvation, which includes the ability to forgive others. And like Patrick, we can choose to let go of our bitterness to open our hearts to forgiveness. Thanks be to God for that word today. As always, here on Straight Talk, we remind you, we encourage you to spend time each and every day focused on His word, meditating on His grace and how awesome He is, whether it be the morning or the evening or right here with me, Monday through Thursday on Straight Talk. But with that, I will get right to it. I am joined this afternoon by a full and very capable team from the Worc department, starting from the newly appointed acting director, Mr. Jeremy Scott, along with the rest of his colleagues, who I will waste no time as we have 5 Who Your Mama Is segments to get through this afternoon. And so I always do ladies before gentlemen. And I don't know which lady is going to decide to go first today. Who's going to take the hot seat first for Who Your Mama Is this afternoon? Any volunteers, or do I have to volunteer? Okay, I'm going to go with Miss Catherine, all right? Who said I'll go?
Okay, my mother is. Good evening. My mother is Blonis Whitaker from Northside, and she's related to the Ebankses in West Bay. And my father, of course, is a Whitaker, or was a Whitaker out of Northside. Bunyan Whitaker the second, or Bunyan Whitaker the first. Sorry.
And if you could tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, about a minute, a little bit of background information, and what your position is now, within this team, so everyone knows what you do and what you have done.
Okay. I worked at the youth services unit for a long time. Before that, I was a teacher. Have HR background. Originally, I'm from Northside, and I'm happy to be here. Right now, I'm head of labor demands, training, and development.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Worc.
Thank you so much, Ms. Catherine. I think that we can go in alphabetical order. How about that? So, Ms. Renda, can you go next?
Okay. Thanks for this opportunity, Rosanna, and good afternoon to everyone in Radio Land. But before proceeding further, Rosanna, I need to commend you on putting God first in all that you do. Before you start your show, you always do a devotional, and I commend you on doing that. Without Him, we can achieve nothing.
Absolutely.
So my name is Brenda Cornwall, and I am head of customer care for Worc. I am from the beautiful district of West Bay. My parents are Ela and Ben Joyce Cornwall, also from West Bay. Well, my father has passed on now, God rest his soul. I've been with the department for 7 years, and it is just a privilege to be a part of this great organization and to see the various transitional stages that the department has gone through, and to see how far we have come. And we look forward to being able to continue to provide an excellent service to the people of these islands, and especially help our Caymanians find jobs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And welcome to another fellow West Bear. I'm a little bit biased when I know West Bears are in the house. And Miss Tanya, next up, Who Your Mama Is. I think
I hope that everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
But I'm not sure where to tell you I hail from, because I'm actually a West Bay import, but I have all rights to be down here. My mom is from Boise Bay, West Bay, and but I grew up in Georgetown. And I kind of told her a few years ago that I'm more a West Bay than you now, because you left when you were 18, and I've been down here over 20-something years. So I'm the Bay and you the town now. But I'm very, very happy to represent Worc. I'm actually a new import as well, returning to the public service from the private sector, from role in human resources for some 7 15 years. And the government had took me back in, and Worc has taken me in through the National Workforce Development Agency. So now this joint effort gives us a really good opportunity and positions us really well to work on the unemployment aspect in the country. So joining forces in this way really represents the way to move forward, and being a part of that is an especially great opportunity.
Awesome.
So whether you're hailing from West Bay, Georgetown, Northside, whatnot, we are one country here, and we are here as a force out in front of you in order to connect you with those opportunities. So I'm really, really pleased to be here. And my mama, like I said, is from West Bay, but she lives in Georgetown, and she's listening this evening. Hi, mama.
Hey.
So my name is Eva, but I actually grew up as Tanya Goring. So Goring Avenue is where I grew up, and I just want to say I'm proud to carry both names, strong names in the community. It's strong people, because Caymanians are, and all the people who choose to become one of us. I want to see us all unite as one country, working for the good of all that all who remain here legally have the right to work, are able to take part in all that the country has to hold, and working forward together as one people to the benefit of all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Tanya. And so we know who the peacekeeper is. Right? So I know how I've identified her in the group already. So now that our ladies have done who your mom is, I'm going to ask Kyle to go. You're up next, and so everybody's going to who your mom is.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you guys. My name is Kyle McLean, and before I get into a little bit of my background, I just let you know that I'm Deputy Director for Worc, Deputy Director of Business Operations here at Worc. I'm the new kid on the block. I just joined the department in January of this year, and it has definitely been a great experience thus far. Quite eventful, I must say, in these past few months. But just to let you know a little bit about my background, my mama is Linda McLean. Originally her maiden name is Linda Ebanks. So that gives you a little bit of a little bit of insight as to where she's from. Originally hailing from West Bay, and my great grandfather was actually Munzi. So Munzi Boat in the Sound. That's my great grandfather. So I need some royalties for all the time that that song is being played. But yeah, but very very thankful to be here. Very thankful to be a part of the Worc team. I previously was with the Department of Tourism for about 8.5 years. And prior to that, just kind of been bouncing around government for the last 20 years. So I've been doing a lot of different things in different departments and ministries. So, but just very thankful to be part of the Worc team.
Awesome. And welcome to Straight Talk the very first time.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, the new acting director of Worc, Mr. Jeremy Scott. Welcome to Straight Talk. And everybody's dying to know who your mama is.
Thank you, Rosanna. Definitely is a privilege to be a first timer on the show. And I definitely hail from the capital of Cayman, the biggest district in the Cayman Islands. So I know that's debatable. But anyway, we'll leave that for another debate. But yeah, definitely. Well, my mama is Marlon Scott. Definitely, I have some roots as well. West Bay. I heard some props about that. And Ebanks being the maiden name, and my father's Joel Scott Senior from the BRAC, definitely born and bred. So we definitely, have a lot in common. Now I realize why we brought Kyle on. His roots go really, really deep. But no, definitely it's a privilege and an honor. Definitely, it's been my background as well is legacy immigration. Been with immigration for 24 years. So I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of developments. been with the work department from the inception of transition as deputy director for compliance. So definitely, we are privileged to be on air and being able to share with the public what we're here, what we're doing, and what to expect from us going forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of you giving an abundance of information in the Who Your Mama Is segment. But let's dive right into it because we have lots of feedback already coming in from the audience, tons of questions that came into me before. I know lots that is going on at work, and so you guys have a lot to share. But I will give a couple of shout outs from Facebook. Miss Yvette, thank you for tuning in. Shirley Ralston says hi to everyone. So does Sasha Berry. A shout out to Johnny Doak. Sasha Berry says, "Sons and daughters of the soil. What better people to have leading the department?" And I'm not sure who this one is for, but Johnny Doak says, "CI Law School, massive in the building." I'm not sure if one of you are his classmates, possibly, or but he's sending love on Facebook. Thank you to all those who are tuned in, whether it be via Facebook or via the Star 92.7 radio station. As we get right into it, one of the most, it has been, I'm sure, an incredible time of transition and just unprecedented decision making through this COVID-19 period. And I know that the department has had to, roll out certain things, earlier than were previously planned, but things that were, kind of simmering in the background and under preparation. One of the things that we have seen launch during this time is Jobs Cayman. And so a lot of people are still wondering, what is the Jobs Cayman portal?
Sure. So, Ruthann, if I can kind of lead the charge from here, the Jobs Cayman portal is really, in fact, a central depository where jobs are actually being posted and are obligated to be posted by employers by law, and that was supported by recent legislation and amendment changes as of the beginning of May. So one important factor of this is that with this central depository, not only do we now see all the jobs on the portal, but we also bridge the gap, enabling job seekers, Caymanian job seekers, to actually be registered in the portal and be able to see all jobs actually being posted and enable them to refer themselves using that portal, where we can increase the success rate, be able on the back end see their referral on that site. So without being on the portal either as a job seeker or as an employer, you're going to definitely miss out on what jobs are available. And as we can imagine, we're getting back up and running. The economy is getting back up and running. We've seen a major increase in jobs actually being posted on the portal successfully. So, one of the plugs that we're trying to get out there is for job seekers to access the portal, get our assistance. If you can get on the portal yourself, using guides and using our main web page to just get access, because right now you're not going to have the reliability of being able to see all jobs via newspapers at this given time, and it's not an obligation on the part of a employer to post those jobs. So we are at a critical point in time for employers as well, in that occupations and jobs that would have been required to be advertised in a newspaper is actually having to be advertised in the portal and run for a minimum of 14 days by the ending of this month, especially if you want to renew those work permits and be able to legally be allowed to continue employment as if you had submitted it before it expired. So there's been an amendment with that as well, and an extension recently as of Monday for a further 30 days. So you have, for employers, we're stressing, get registered, get the jobs posted, run them for the 14 days, because if there is a desire to submit work permits as part and parcel to that job posting, You have to give a minimum of 14 days so that we can ensure that Caymanians also have first sight and have the ability to refer themselves for those jobs.
And let me ask you something as well. So, is that requirement? So, you know that from I guess from prior to Jobs Cayman, there were certain positions, primarily domestic helpers and a few other positions that were not required to have jobs advertised in the newspaper, whereas everyone else did. Do all jobs have to be advertised through Job Caymans, including for domestic helpers, or only those who would have otherwise required a newspaper ad previously?
So that's actually a very topical question, and I'm glad to definitely be able to answer that. Our position right now is that we haven't changed our policy with the requirement of those jobs, as you mentioned, domestics or anything, having to be posted on the jobs portal. We remain honoring that position of not having to advertise them. That is also that could be subject to change, because what we're seeing is that there's a major increase in the needs of job seekers, and what their skill sets are and what they're willing to actually seek as potential employment. So that could very well change in short order. But at this point in time, we're remaining. We're not necessarily wanting to change anything majorly with from a policy steer. But at this time, yeah, that's not required.
Okay, but all positions that would have otherwise required a newspaper ad are now required to be run for 14 days on the Jobs Cayman portal. And someone is, Sasha Barrett on Facebook says, please make it mandatory to advertise positions before putting in a temporary work permit. And so just to pose that as a question for clarity for people, at present, that running for 14 days, is that currently still only required if they are applying for a grant?
That's correct. That's our position right now. I know that there's questions that had been raised about whether or not it was applicable to temps as well. What we are interpreting right now is that that change was only focused on grants and renewals. But again, we can take a look back at that. The temporaries at this point are not legally required for advertisement.
Okay, thank you for that. And you mentioned that Jobs Cayman is for both job seekers and employers. Right now, who's using Jobs Cayman? As you see, as you roll this out this platform, people are getting registered. Is there a predominance of whether it's Caymanians or work permit holders who is using Jobs Cayman at this time?
Not sure if Kyle wants to answer that. Based on, I know we came prepared with some stats. Kyle, are you prepared to answer that, or?
Sure, I can. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that question, Rutana. We've seen quite a big mix of different people that are on the jobs portal, and one of the things that we're seeing is that we have Caymanians, we have legal or ordinary residents, we have persons that are married to Caymanians, permanent residents with the right to work, and first-time work permit seekers, and then we also have persons with a status of refugee. So those would definitely be persons who are here, who have been granted asylum within the islands. So they have the same rights and privileges as Caymanians would. So essentially, we've seen quite a cross section of persons registering, on the jobs portal, and we've also seen a lot of people, as we look at as we break down the demographics of our job seekers, we're able to see different things, like levels of education and various things like that. So it's very interesting to see the breakdown. When you compare a person, the level of education that they have, and then you kind of cross reference that with the type of job that they're looking for as well. So it gives us a good insight into the overall market, the job market.
Which is very useful information. I've had some questions come in via Facebook that I want to get to. Johnny Joke says, can job adverts be placed in the Compass as they've always been without being vetted by Work first? Is advertising jobs in the Compass going to continue? And if so, is that because no one's applying via Work qualifies, so they have to open it up. In the past, Compass adverts have always been an adherence to the law that stipulates you must advertise, but we all know those positions were taken before the ad. So in essence, I guess he's asking a couple questions. Um, if someone places an advertisement in the Compass or one of the local newspapers, because there is more than one now, if they place it there without placing the ad in Jobs Cayman, does that qualify them as having advertised for 14 days?
So the answer to that, Ruthana, is that the advertisement has to be in the portal first. Okay, so they have all they can actually advertise in the newspaper, but one of the things with the amendment is that it makes it abundantly clear that those advertisements have to go in the portal first, or immediately or simultaneously with any other media adverts. The other thing to mention here is that any other medias or mediums that are used for adverts other than the portal has to be identical in substance as well. So there cannot be any variances with advertising on one source and not advertising it on the portal. And there's an obligation for that employer to disclose and submit copies of those advertisements that were posted elsewhere to enable us to compare and make sure that it was a fair recruitment process as well. And there wasn't any hidden agendas, but it also makes it an offense if they fail to disclose that as well. So there's some protections as well.
So, for example, they couldn't advertise it on Jobs Cayman at $6 an hour and then put an ad in the Compass for $9 an hour, and that be okay.
Correct.
Okay. And then he also asked, do all employers / companies registered in Cayman have to sign up for Worc? I'm sure he's meaning the jobs portal. If not, can they employ or advertise employment opportunities?
So I think the first position I would, or at least seek to answer that with, would be that if they're going to be seeking a work permit, really, the requirement for the advertisement would be on the register on the portal and advertise and post jobs on the portal. If they're out there, recruiting Caymanians, there may not be a need if they are if they are posting on their own site or their own portal and they're hiring a Caymanian. But at the end of the day, it is legally required to have those adverts posted on the portal first.
Okay, if they intend to take out a work permit. Jillian asks, why are employers required to register as a person and enter personal details? And I'm assuming that's from the standpoint of businesses and the individual person who owns the businesses are considered separate entities. So what I'm getting from her question is, people are having to register as an individual person versus the company registering to publish the ad.
So I won't hog the mic. I will ask if Ms. Brenda is willing to step up to the mic on that one.
Okay, so the portal registration on the portal, Usana, is going to be linked to e-government. So what happens is when you register as a person, you will be issued like a national ID, right? And that national ID then is what you will use then to register for all of the other registration types on the portal, like an employer. So to answer the question, it is because of the issuance of a national ID. And that is why, so obviously you cannot issue a national ID for a company. It has to be an individual.
Okay, and then the individual can then go to set up essentially a company profile. Is that how it works?
So precisely, that's exactly correct. So what happens is for you have to first register as a person. Once you register as a person, you can then move on to register as an employer or as a job seeker or as both.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much for that. Sasha Barry asks, can you advertise a post even if you don't want to put in a work permit?
Yes, of course. That's not a problem. I mean, again, if we think about it, Yeah, sorry. If you think about it, the portal is a depository of predominantly what we're hoping to achieve is predominantly Caymanians being on that portal, and it's the sure way to find the majority. And this is what we are trying to achieve: the majority of Caymanians who are actively uh, seeking employment or definitely would be interested in the jobs that are actually being posted.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I want to try to get in one more question before the break. Um, you know, we know that we've seen the stats in relation to projected potential unemployment as a result of all of this. Why is it important for Caymanians to register on the portal at this time? Like I know that there's been a push for Caymanians to get registered. Why is that important for people who have not put it on the agenda yet and have not registered themselves in the portal as an employee or a person seeking employment? Why is that important?
I think, as mentioned earlier, Rufana, is that this is a sure way that they can enable themselves to visibly see and refer themselves to the jobs. Right now we're doubling in registrations, and the whole push for even at the end of this month, being able to see hundreds of jobs per week that are actually being posted. And there's a 14-day window. If you're not on the portal, you're not actually going to see them and refer yourself. So at the end of the day, one of the other plugs that we wanted to get out there was that getting registered on the portal is not the end and be all. It's actually registering on the portal and actively reviewing and navigating and looking at the jobs that are being posted on a daily basis. That will enable you to self-refer. There is another ability for there to be extra assistance when signing up. So if you want extra assistance from employment service officers that may be able to guide you and refer on your behalf, that's another added bonus, really. If there's some limitations of not doing it or being able to do it yourself.
Okay. And
I would
Sasha,
like to add.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'd like to add another benefit for Caymanians registering on the portal is transparency with regards to their application. So whenever they apply for a job on the portal, there's going to be a history, right, of the jobs that they applied to. And if the employer does not hire them, the employer has to put in, it's mandatory for them to put in comment as to why that Caymanian was not hired. The Caymanian in turn gets to see the feedback from the employer as well. And again, that can also be beneficial. For example, if they see where they may have fell down in the interview process and they know, well, okay, I need to improve or I need to upskill in this area. So that's another added benefit. And I encourage all Caymanians, get registered on the portal because this is the direction that employment is heading in the Cayman Islands. And so you want to be a part of this. You do not want to miss out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I think that's an incredibly important point because Worc you can't essentially police things you don't know about, right? So if the Caymanians aren't in there actively seeking and applying to jobs, you don't know that they actually want that job, or so it's not. I think it's very important to point it out that it is at this time. It's not the responsibility of Worc to get people to apply for jobs, right? Like you need the Cayman to take the responsibility for signing up on getting registered on Jobs Cayman and actively job seeking and applying to the jobs is what I'm taking back from some, based on what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Along that line. And so I am going out to my first break of my time. I have a myriad of questions that are coming in addition to ones I already had, and much more questions I have to ask you guys. But we are going out to our first break of our time together. It is 5:34 on the Star 92.7 clock. I'll be right back in about 2 minutes and some change with all of these guests. I will continue to try to get through all of these questions for you guys. They'll be with me until 6 o'clock this evening. So please keep it locked. Talk on Star 92.7.
Join the conversation. The phone lines are now open. 943-3700. You can also find us on Facebook or email us at straighttalkci@gmail.
Burger King has been a part of the Cayman family for decades, and we know our family needs a little extra help right now. So we're introducing the best Whopper deal on the planet. 4 Whoppers for just $10.
We are family. I got 4 big Whoppers with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, let's eat.
The Burger King Family Bundle. 4 Whoppers for just $10. Available at all Burger King drive-thrus for a limited time.
Flow continues to keep your family connected by bringing you the fastest speeds and best price. Last year, we brought you the Hero Plan. This year, we introduce you to the Superhero Plan. Get our Superhero Plan with 200 megabytes of broadband and TV Watch All for only $200 per month. Are you a new customer? Get the first month free when you sign up by July 3rd. Visit discoverflow.ky/hero for details. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Flow Cayman Islands. Terms and conditions apply. Flow, you deserve the best.
Dear students, we know that you miss your friends, being outside, and most of all, coming to school.
And we hope that you understand that everything happening right now is to keep you safe from harm.
You are our priority. You are the future. So even though this is a very tough time, we believe in you to be the leaders we know you can be.
To stay focused on doing your best work, even when no one is watching.
To be helpful and respectful to your parents and guardians at all times.
To be kind and thoughtful to everyone around
To
you.
always be thankful, even for the little things.
And most of all, to remember to keep in touch with us because
We're here for you. Love your teachers.
A message from the East End, Edna Moyle, John Gray, Layman E. Scott, Red Bay, T.O. McCoy, West End, and the Lighthouse School.
Don't let the actions of the few continue to impact the majority. If you know of someone who is taking unnecessary risks with social distancing and curfews, talk to them. Remind your siblings, children, parents, and friends of the importance of social distancing. We will all get through these challenging times, but only if we can all work together. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Ruth Anna on Star 927.
We are back, folks, and you are tuning in to Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Star 927 Premium Radio. I am your host, Ruth Anna Young, with you until 6 o'clock this evening, joined by a full team from the Worc department, Mr. Jeremy, Kyle, Ms. Tanya, Brenda, Catherine, all here in the virtual studio with me. And they are answering your questions on Jobs Cayman and current immigration policies and procedures. A lot more questions to be asked, so we will get right into it. And so I will just ask, sometimes we're getting, just for the benefit of all of you, sometimes I'm getting a little bit of feedback from microphone. So if you could keep your microphone muted and when you get ready to speak, you can unmute it. You guys can control that on your end. But let's just get right into the questions that continue to pile up here for me. And so I know that someone asked, and I think this was in relation to one of the earlier statements from Ms. Renda with the national ID. They have said, is this compliant with the data protection law? Do we have legislation regarding a national ID? Hello?
So I was talking and the mic was off. Important to put the mic on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Ruth Anna, right now, I think we're a bit ahead of the game when it comes to e-government in terms of rolling out the national IDs. So I don't think well, I know that aspect hasn't been rolled out yet by government, but our system, the way our system was built, was to be able to be in sync. So we're almost like ahead of the game in terms of issuing the national ID. Although that has not been made law as yet, this is one of the ways to go ahead and start doing it. I don't know if Mr. Scott can speak to that a bit more.
Anything to add to that, Jeremy, or?
Yeah, I do. Apart from the projections of the future and what are the needs for e-government going forward, I believe it's important to identify that when you have a nexus to your profile of ensuring that it's Jeremy Scott, there is a measure of protection as well. So we are making sure that we're putting from the beginning, when we create the profile for that individual, the creation of who that individual is connected to when it comes to their ownership. That enables us to, from the onset, to the capabilities of that individual of being able to delegate the ability to, whomever, because that's another element of the portal, is that you're able to delegate the powers and the abilities to submit and carry out functions as if you were hiring agents to do that on your behalf. So with you having a central person to start out with, which would probably be, when you deal with companies and so forth, it's probably the major shareholders and directors. They then can the powers in their hands to enable them to delegate that power of doing business on their behalf. But if we started from a different, we started with creating a company profile without there being an individual who then could be in charge of how far to let go reins and allow people to act on their behalf and pull it back. Without that feature being in place, there could be some integrity issues as well from the beginning.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. And another question that has also come in. Let me just, it came in on Facebook. Someone wants to know, how long is it taking for work permits to be processed at this time? Is there like a delay in getting work permits processed? What's the average time for the grants now?
Okay, so I'll answer that. Yes. So Ruthanna, by way of background, we are doing our applications online right now, online submissions since COVID-19. So the process is applications are submitted by email, and you have to make a payment, an EFT payment, which is an electronic funds transfer payment, attach that with your application and submit it, right? In the past, applications, once they were submitted, they were received the same exact day that they came in, and then the process up to decision point was taking between 6 to 8 weeks. We're working right now with a turnaround of about 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh wow. Okay, so reduced processing time, which is, I'm sure, welcome news to people's ears. And the person said that they hear a lot of business owners saying that their permits are being denied or deferred with no indication of timeline for processing approvals. Any clarity on what's happening there?
So Ruthanna, I could actually step in there. It was quite dynamic. I think everyone was taken by surprise as the shelter-in-place provisions transpired. So there were some policy decisions. We were growing quite concerned about applications that were in flight and making decisions with, I think it's fair to say that within the last couple of weeks, we have a clearer projection as to the economy getting back up and running, businesses being back up and running. But before that, there was a lot of uncertainty. So instead of granting work permits that we were really unsure what's going to happen in the next 6 months, we played it safe with doing quite a bit of deferrals. Hence the reason that there was an increase in deferrals. There was a position taken as well where resulted in a policy decision with refusals. Again, the economy was shut down. Businesses were not able to operate. There was a growing concern of work permit holders here not being able to survive, the financial impact, the social interest issues around that. So there's a slew of considerations that were made during, I think it's fair to say, within the last month and a half. But I'm able to say at this point in time, within the last 2 weeks, we've made a 360 turn again, knowing that we have, we're very optimistic as to, businesses being back up and running in very short order. So we've been communicating with the management team for work permits. So the policies surrounding and the justification for refusals has definitely changed. So there will be a decrease in actually seeing those results, because we don't want to be operating counter to having businesses back up and running and functioning and having the adequate resources.
Okay, and what should businesses do if they're trying to post jobs, but basically technology isn't cooperating to ensure that they can get posted in time to be able to, go through the 14-day period? What should they do if they're not able to get them posted?
So, Ms. Rinda, I'm not sure if you want to take the lead on that one.
Right. With regards to posting jobs, it's a little bit different than when you're actually registering a person, because for persons who were experiencing technical issues, we had a system in place through the Employment Services Unit as well, where they could actually go by the NAU and actually sign up manually, and then we in the background could go on the system and set them up. Now, posting a job that way would be a bit different. And I think, Ruthana, that is something we're going to have to get back to you on.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's going to work in terms of posting the job on behalf of the employer, because we would have to physically be into that employer's profile to be able to have that ability to assist them. And I do know that that Jeremy shared earlier, the extension to submit job posts, well, for those that expired between the 27th of March and the 1st of May, is the end of this month, the 30th of June. So I'm not sure what would happen. Maybe there's a possibility that those individuals may have to reach out to an agency, a recruitment agency, to assist them with that process if they're having significant technical difficulties.
Okay. And just to reiterate that, because I know that's been a question that's come into me a lot, for permits that have expired, and does this also include, like, if someone's had a permit canceled and taking on a new employer, you can answer that separately. But for permits that have expired between March 27th and the end of May, they in essence now have an extension through to the end of June. So the employer has until the end of June to get the register with Jobs Cayman, post the job, and then submit the work permit. Is that correct?
Yes, most of it. I believe there is a clarification, and Jeremy can help me with this. I know you made mention specifically, Ruthana, that until the 31st, that expired 31st of May. I believe the extension is actually only in fact for persons whose work permits would have expired by the 1st of May. So 27th of March to the 1st of May. I don't think the extension applies for anybody thereafter, but Jeremy, you can clarify if that's not correct.
Yeah, that was the intention. The overall objective is to allow persons who do not or would not have had the capability during the shelter in place, and thankfully we were up and running quite quickly after shelter in place to provide for some applications to be submitted electronically. But you would be correct that would be the time frame for renewals, or the capture those that would have expired during that time frame to get their renewals in. I know, Ruth Anna, you asked a question in relation to work permits canceled. Again, we would, it's a brand new application. We're currently taking in applications for new applications as well. So we're pretty much back up and running. We're trying to also catch up with our website as well, with the forms, modification of forms. And I know at times there's some confusion with that, but it's safe for me to say that we are at this point in time taking in the majority of the applications as we speak.
Okay. And what does someone need, both employers and employees, what do they need to get registered on Jobs Cayman? When they sit down to the computer to do that, what are some of the things that they need to keep in mind to have with them, or information that they will need for that registration process?
So they will need to have a valid picture ID and proof of their immigration status. So for Caymanians, they would have to provide either a voter registration card, a birth certificate, or a Caymanian status certificate. And then for persons who are non-Caymanian, we didn't discuss this, Ruthana, but yes, non-Caymanians can actually register on the portal as well. And for them, again, a valid ID, preferably their passport, and their work permit license, or if you are a dependent of a work permit holder, then the stamp in your passport as a dependent.
And for someone who and just to clarify, what it is or was the expectation if people, because I think there's been a lot of confusion around this, so I'm getting and I'm summarizing questions that are coming into me right now, right? For people whose permits expired after the 1st of May, but were unaware that Worc was processing work permits or thought that those rules still applied, as in they weren't processing work permits and such. So the new applications had not been submitted. What should that employee do at this time? Whether it is the same person taking out a work permit or they're changing employers, because I've gotten questions in both scenarios, people whose work permits have expired, some who employers hadn't submitted for the renewal because they didn't think that they were taking in the renewals at the time, and then others are seeking to switch employers, after an expired work permit. But it was after May 1.
So Ruth Ann, the position right now is that persons who do not really have a valid facility, right now they would have normally gone to the Customs and Border Control to get their time up to date, make sure that the application was processed, and if approved, then they're back being a legal and ordinarily resident. What the advice that at this point in time is that they can't go to CBC for extensions at this point in time. They're not back up and running. For renewals or new work permits, it's important that they get that submitted, and we are processing them quite efficiently. So by time they have that submitted, I think it's fair to say that a decision on that would be quite timely, and it would actually put them back. We are understanding as well and considerate of the fact that there's a lot of anomalies that will play out. So the manner in which we're applying from a compliance standpoint, we're very considerate with that position. So the whole objective is to assist to try to get the economy back up and running, get persons and businesses back up and running, and where there exists a case-by-case basis, where for some odd reason the worker themselves might find themselves caught out. We are definitely going to be reasonable with those circumstances.
Okay, and so basically, to clarify for some people listening, you want them to regularize themselves as quickly as possible if they have secured other employment at this time is in essence what I'm taking from that. If they've secured other employment, get the work permit in, right? So that it can get approved and they can be regularized in that way. Is
correct.
Okay. A few other quick questions. Yes.
Sorry.
No
with regards to your earlier question as well about job posts, persons who are having difficulty submitting job posts, I would also encourage them to reach out to our customer care team, who are very, very helpful and who can help to guide them as well. And I can provide you with contact numbers at this time for the customers. So we have a cell number, which is 925 9639.
And
then they can.
This phone number would take them to what department?
So this is going to take them to the Jobs Cayman section within the department, our customer care team.
Okay.
This is a direct link to that section, and that number is specifically for troubleshooting any issues relating to Jobs Cayman. They can also call our main line 945-9672, right? And then they can also ask for Jobs Cayman staff, Ms. Eddie Wagner and her team, and they would be more than willing to assist customers. I know that particular question in particular, we have not really had any issues with customers not being able to post jobs. We've had issues where they were short and our staff guided them. But like I said, just ask the customers to reach out to our team and we will do our best to assist them.
Okay, thank you so much. And for people who their permits have expired and they have, whether the grants or the renewals have come out as yet, or the new permits have not been submitted as yet, can they continue to work, whether it be with the same employer or under the same work permit title that they previously had?
Yeah, they are allowed to continue working. Again, under the premise that they have their submissions done before the cutoff.
Okay, and the cutoff is?
It's the ending of this month.
Okay, end of June. So submissions need to be done before the end of June. And then I will speed through a couple of other questions as best I can that have come in as well. Is there within the work department, and I know this may or may not fall within work, but I know there's a training aspect to it. Is there any specific plan that is put in place that I guess that falls under the remit of work for the training of Caymanians, in particular hospitality workers, during this time to retrain them or retool them?
So, Ms. Catherine, can I have you lead the charge on that?
Yeah, she just needs to unmute her microphone for me. Ms. Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I had to unmute. Sorry.
That's fine.
Of course, with COVID, we put on hold. We finish off what training we had and put things on hold. We are regrouping to start offer again in June. So look for our offerings. Okay, we're deciding on offerings at this time.
Okay.
So look for something out in June.
Okay, where would they look for that? Where would they?
They would look online, and we also have Facebook.
Okay,
So look at our Facebook page, look at our worc.gov.ky website. That's where we post training as well.
All right. And I have some shout outs coming in for what I presume are call center or work employees. I have one person on Facebook saying Mrs. Nettie is very helpful and friendly. Sasha Berry comes in and says an officer named Erica is very helpful as well. So those are shout outs coming in on Facebook for some of your staff. So if you guys know them, let them know that people shouted them out for a good job on Facebook. And Johnny Doak is asking, can work lend staff to DBDL to answer the phone or the inbox? I don't know.
We're at max capacity, Ruthana. We're at max capacity.
Okay, you can't lend anybody. Oh, Johnny Doak, I'm sorry, honey. Somebody else can have to lend to DBDL. I've watched him over the weeks post of his to pin and implying to DBDL. So a question coming in: will PR and status holders have the national ID?
So, Ruthana, I think that wouldn't be an answer that we could provide. I know we originally touched on national IDs as the future, but that's not really within our remit. We were trying to give context around why we're doing it the way that we're doing it, via the technological platforms. Again, trajectory of the future. But that wouldn't be something that we were able to answer.
Okay, fair enough. And to summarize a length there, just in the interest of time, and I'm going to put an appeal out to Mr. Director, because there are so many questions that have piled up that have yet to be answered. So if there is an opportunity for you and your very able team to come on in the very near future once again, because I literally have piles of questions I have not got around to, but I do have to have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. But in essence, the question that just that came in was, for example, in the instance when you have, let's say, a Chinese restaurant, right, applying for posting in the job portal for a staff member in a Chinese food establishment, and a Caymanian is applying that feels they have just reason to apply for the job. The question is essentially who essentially decides whether that is a valid request for a work permit, and I guess alluding to the fact that, okay, it's Chinese food, and even though you may have an indigenous Caymanian who may have experience in cooking food, they may not have the requisite experience with a Chinese restaurant. Who makes those kinds of decisions is the essence of this question.
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. But I think the simple answer to it is you have the director and the delegates, which would be administrators, as well as the boards. It's as you can imagine, it's not a very simple answer to that when you're faced with that scenario. But I think it all boils down to what is the occupation, what are the special skill sets, does the Caymanian possess that? Because you're balancing the needs of an employer and what is it that they are trying to provide, as well as the protection of local labor, making sure that the Caymanians, as long as they're qualified and skilled, if there's intra-level type of positions, then it may be less contentious. But we have to balance both interests. But again, if the Caymanian is qualified, they have the skill sets, and really and truthfully, we would determine that it's unreasonable to kind of narrow it down to something that would be unreasonable as a qualification. The administrators and the boards would have that power to make that decision.
Okay, thank you. And I got about 3 people in here agreeing that whoever Miss Nettie is awesome. Okay, so
It really is.
I gotta let you know that Ruthana, not trying to pat her backs on her shoulders, but those two ladies that were mentioned are super awesome, and they are a part of my customer care team, and we are very proud of them.
Well, that is exciting news. Lots of love on Facebook. I will be honest, I always tell people I have actually had some really great experiences in calling work or immigration. That is something that I have publicly said between Michelle and a number of others that are awesome, incredible. But guys, it is 6:01 on the button. Again, I am going to put a plea in with Mr. Director. Please let me know when is the earliest opportunity that you guys can come back, because I have lines lit up and phone calls coming in that messages coming in that I have not gotten to as yet. So if you could make you and your team available at the next earliest opportunity, I would be grateful. But you guys have also fielded a lot of questions, so thank you very, very much. And I asked my audience to look out for whenever their next visit will be, because I know that the questions have not gone away and still many questions to be answered. And it was my pleasure to have you all on the show. I appreciate you and all the work that you are doing. But it is 6:02, which means that we are out of here. And hopefully you guys will be back again soon.
Definitely, Rosanna. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome, guys. It is star 92.7 clock, which means I'm out of here. I'll be back again tomorrow. I will have the leader of the opposition, Mr. Arden McLean, in studio with me from 5 to 6 tomorrow evening, right here for some more Straight Talk on Star 92.7.
Go.
Press, 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 press.